Alright, so corporate is going to need you to find the difference between this picture over here and this one over here. I'll give you 2 minutes to figure that out. Just kidding, I'll give you 5 seconds. They are the exact same bloody thing. There was like literally next to no difference. This one is Diamond Day, and this one was whenever Legends got out on PC. So as you can tell, there's feck all difference. Minus the fact this one's literally ahead by about a few minutes because it's a PvP video, whereas this one's a discussion video on the PC of Legends. But that's besides the point, alright? That's besides the point. They're both the fucking same, alright? I'm gonna just... Well, anyways, that was in vain. Anyways, RPG, bitch. Fuck. But anyways, the point of contention is the fact the UI literally has never changed up until the more recent Legends 2.0. Why is that? Because they were mostly half lazy. There was like a minor difference, and that's the profile being the one of them. That is the only difference, and you could probably tell that was like literally the main thing. But otherwise, feck all has changed up until that, again, Legends 2.0. That's why I'm here to discuss. About 3 weeks later, but that's besides the point. Better late than never. So yeah, I don't care. We're going to get straight into this here. Obviously, whenever Legends information came out, I did ask everybody what was their thoughts on the thing. Most people were actually content with it. They were actually really did like it. There was 2% who people who no fucking giving shits. They really hated it. People who were indifferent, they didn't really care. And then obviously there was some people who needed to wait, which was fair enough. I can completely understand that point of view. Obviously there was obviously a comment saying that 50-50, obviously. I need to wait and see, which is again, is a fair enough contention. Then it came out, and then I asked again, what are your thoughts on it after a good while? And people, from what I'm aware of, hold on, give me 2 minutes. I asked people what their opinions were after the thing was open. Has they changed? Has it been like so and so? By that I mean it hasn't, or it has, both ways. And obviously if literally nothing has changed. If it's drastically changed from whatever they initially got it. And as you can see here, most people haven't changed. By that I mean, I guess the 60% more than likely was the fact that they really liked it. Obviously it's not a good way of doing the poll, because it's very vague the way I've done it. But I don't care, alright? You keep yourself quiet, alright? Keep quiet. I'm doing it. But obviously it has, but it also hasn't. Some people probably did like it. They still probably do, but with some contentions here and there. I was definitely one of them. As we'll see in the next clip here of 15 minutes of me literally going through the majority of Legends. So yeah, let's go. So yeah, I'm going to load up the game because that's where we're going to start off with here, which is why I'm on my home screen and why literally the entire screen centered bar Legends. So yeah, let's load it up. So yeah, getting straight into this here, we got ourselves a nice loading screen. To be fair, it's not bad background, I'll say as much. So yeah, I'm going to move on. And as you can see here, extremely good cover page. This is the thing I think. Now I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe this is from the artist who does Breakers, Dragon Ball Breakers. I think this is the same artist that does this here. If it is Legends, that's fair fucking blood at them. But I still see the Breakers aesthetic nearly to this here. Again, I could be wrong, but that's just me. And as you probably did see there was a wee small button or something here. Yep, there you see, wee map thing there. And this here, in all honesty, I actually somewhat prefer the old one, slightly so. But you see this here, that's a very good indication. And in here, immediately we obviously got ourselves the UI layout with UI in the background, as you do. And instead of actually going to the character, you can literally just swipe up. Here you go, got this here. Very nifty change. And you can have multiple people in the background, so that's very good. And as you see here, obviously I got all the signs, except for the revival one, because he's sort of a blue, and yes, it goes to sign, but I'd rather just have the Ultra Instinct sitting right there. But yeah, no. As you see here, very good. And even then, look at this here, it even tells you what the hell to do, so that's very good. That's very nifty, in case you want to leave this here by accident. So yeah, that's pretty nifty. The way this is laid out, very good, because story and PvP, the main things I think are usually of this game. So having them at the forefront, very good. And the menu has changed to burger, as what the industry calls it. I'm being dead serious, as what most of the industry actually calls this here. So yeah, burger icon, very juicy. And as you can see here, all the buttons have changed. Now, the only thing I will say about this here is if you've played another game of Candy Crush, you'll notice that this thing is oddly similar to Dokkan. In my personal opinion, it looks extremely like Dokkan. Slight on some things, because missions definitely wasn't on Dokkan. I know events was like a big massive button up here with story and PvP, because you press start and then you go to events and story mode. But the point being is the fact that there is buttons at the bottom taking you to different pages, similar to Dokkan, but again, that's just the only thing. And again, everything has been moved. But I want to point out, We Saints of No Limits, Time Traveler, Bulma, going on a mission, finding some Dragon Balls. I would find all the references, but I can't be bothered. And then obviously Tournament of Power Goku. It's probably not, I'm joking about there. And if you even press one, look at this here. Character animation, icon animation on that. Very crispy. And this here looks pretty decent enough. This is a friendship rank team, alright? We're going to leave that be. You question what the hell I've got it all here. But here, that's besides the point. You move over here to events. The loading screen, very good. Instead of just the background, it actually has some form of transition, which is very good as well. And obviously all the buttons, all the things, all the events here leaned out in pretty good order. And again, another thing I would say similar to Dokkan, the fact that up here has the different events of where you go to. I'm just comparing this to Dokkan. All right, keep quiet. You know, I'm no professional. However, I've got some form of knowledge. All right, but yeah, no, you still get through all of them. Still easy enough. The only thing I will say is that I'm too used to co-op being right up at the top. But to be fair, it's not like a main game mode. So having it here is definitely that bit better, instead of having it up at the top where it is very protruding to the point where you feel like it's you need to click on it. That is the only thing I will say. So it's a pretty decent change. That's what I will say. But you know, go to home, go back to here, and even then, PvP has a wee slight extra detail to it. And again, the PvP background looks actually pretty good, because now I've got the God Tube stuff in the background. Switching it changes to everything, and then nothing, obviously nothing. God Tube, however, is such a tiny fucking icon. You can barely even notice anything of that. I do want to say here that the arrow button, still very good. And the new buttons, very, very good. I actually don't mind them, because the text actually is pretty good. But still, you literally press nothing else about here. It's just empty space, but to be fair, it's to showcase the background. But this God Tube thing is so tiny, I would barely notice. If you want to watch some replays from high-ranked God players, usually before, it was actually up in the top right from what I'm aware of, and it was actually quite big. No one probably would have understood what the hell that is. Even then, this thing is so tiny, it is so stupid. But you know, I do like the fact this here transitions into this here. And actually, I just only noticed this right now. There is that there, treasure battle, because if I go over to here, that says rating match. Go to here, training battle. I've just noticed that as well. That's in all honesty a very fine detail, I'll say. Details is such a very tiny button, but it does tell you the icon. Again, up here, it's again very tiny buttons these things are. You barely miss the entire top benefit. That is obviously to show you your rank and your RP and all that hoo-ha, scuba-da-ba. And again, having this boost character flow up here, very good. This seems very, like, transitional enough. Why? I just felt what? I guess it's because of the banner. I don't know. But no, this is in all honesty very nice enough. You can actually tell what some of these characters are. It's just an average thing. And I do like these buttons. I will say this much. These buttons actually look crispy enough. These buttons look crispy. One thing I will say, so there is that. And obviously you switch to boost. New boost system from what I'm aware of. So yeah, there's that too. And obviously the filter, pretty decent. I actually like this filter. Filtering is very good, because obviously it's changed up, and I can actually just filter it instead of doing spark, instead of pressing sparking up here, then ledge limit all the way down here. You just have them up there because they're two technically different rarities. Very good. The search bar doesn't really change, just a slight like text mix up there. I don't know what the greater than is button, but here. But still, very good. And again, all the things here listed, that seems fine enough. One thing I will say, and again, reset button, not too bad. So yeah, I actually like this here. Aesthetically, it looks very pleasing. The fact that there's still a wee bit of white space here and here, still slightly iffy, because we could have just like moved that there into the middle. That actually would have been perfect. Because most things, whenever it's categorized with a 5, is usually there, left, right, then in the middle. unless you're willing to put something added on to after that, which people have been theorizing whenever this initially did come out because they were confused what this is. This here makes no fucking sense to me whatsoever, so I don't know what down here is. If you want to theorize about that, sure, go ahead. But yeah, no, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to go to missions. Look at this here. Bulma doing a wee bit of a wee wiggle. And again, I think I've already technically showcased this here, but the fact that it just looks so similar to Dokkan. Although the only thing I will say, it does loop back around. So that is a plus above Dokkan. That's one thing I will say. And again, wee mission thing here is... You would never press that whatsoever. I don't know what that is. Oh, that's just reloading it. Oh. Okay, so not too far. I never even noticed that. But yeah, no. And again, the accept all is finally in the game. That is a very good thing. So it does help in every aspect of the game. And obviously, if we go up to here, it does give us a plus. It gives us, again, text changes, outlines. I think I've already technically went over that, but sure. Then we move over to here. In transition, Goku Kamehameha. Again, it actually switches it between revivals. So in other words, characters have come back. And then tickets. Which is very good. It's one thing I will say is very, very good. And again, the way this is laid out, fairly well done as well. That is fairly well done. It is very well. Not very much has changed, technically speaking, with regards to how this is done, but I do like it. So yeah, there is that. And then obviously we got ourselves the news, presence, guilds, and all that here. Not really too much, but it's enough to change it. So yeah, in all honesty, overall, just from, again, my very, very quick explanation of it all, very well done. Now, if I go into here, it does change up this here, so there is that too. Just wanted to point that out. And again, the buttons look eerily similar. Sure. Let's have a look, see here. What we got? Two areas where nothing is. Okay, fine enough. I don't know what's going to be put there. Massive massive empty space up here. Up here, literally, no one's going to be looking at. So what the fuck's the point up here? Well, then I will say, it does have story and PvP at the bottom. Again, I'm too used to having an exchange shop at the very top, so there is that. But I've played it a good few days to understand that it's fine. However, the only thing I will say is that if I go to TOP, it does like switch to the background. There isn't that much of a half decent transition to it. Although, if you see my second part, you would have known this was taking place during this time. So, yeah. However, I just want to point out one thing here. Again, the transitions between the two screens don't exactly work well. If you want to go to here, why did they move all the things down here? Because the last time they were all the way up here, like where the element was, they were up there, but now they're all the way down there. Again, slight grievance. That's the one thing I will say. It's just a slight grievance. And what is the rating match here? Why is this here? What point does it have? Because we're not in rating match. We're just in TOP. That is the only thing. Again, that's another thing I want to just point out. It's a slight grievance. It's just a slight grievance. It is not very important. It's just a slight thing I wanted to point out. The fact that rating match is here and then TOP's all the way down here instead of up here to where you could just tap it where it was before. But again, slight grievance, easily over with, because to be fair with you, I shouldn't be moving characters or switching between tiers until I'm actually making teams. But yeah, that's the only thing I want to point out. Now, there is obviously going to be a couple of other things. Obviously, to do with the settings. Now, obviously, how I did my characters is obviously my favorite character settings. Now things being changed. And the background, I can change it. So let's just say I want to change it to something. So we'll swatch it from let's just say a default background. So there's that. Dark background, puts it back to the normal. Or I can put it back to the way it was. I'm going to put it back to the way it was. To read certain text, yeah, I don't care. Shut up, alright. There you go. Now it's been moved. So let's just see how well that looks on a normal character. Okay, never mind. Okay, so to be fair, I actually did want to point this. I actually want to have a look at this here. It's a lot better reading. Reading wise, it's so much better. I will say that much because the fact that, again, the text has changed. It actually keeps these things separate. I don't know whether it was before because I'm an idiot and forgot to record any of that. So there is that. But yeah, no, that's very good. So hold on, let me see if I go press here, go to here, swap over to MUI, come back here. Look at that. That looks infinitely better. I know obviously having like a black background with something else. But here, let's just say go to summons. Look at that. It actually, to be fair with you, that actually doesn't even look that much better. Then again, I've been using this here with white for quite a while, but that's just me. But yet, okay, this one looks that wee bit better. Okay. In all honesty, for some aspects of the game, I feel like as if a white background will look so much better. Oh, holy shit, this is infinitely better. Alright, so I take that statement back literally a second later. This looks infinitely better. Yeah, no, infinitely better. I'm sorry, then again, I have been playing the game mostly on a black background, so I can't say. However, still, look, oh, even that shell animation, see ya. And it actually tells you. Again, I haven't done anything in part 17, alright? But it tells you, within part 17, how much CC you can get. So that's fairly good. And again, most of this here has somewhat changed. So yeah, this looks so much better. Personally, if I just go, let's just say I want to go, oh shit, oh hello. Yeah, we'll not do that, we'll do Majin Buu. This, to be fair with you, looks a lot more compact. And the yellow signifying the full thing done, burn off. So yeah, that is one thing as well. This here looks mostly the same. But yeah, and again, this is honestly fine enough. This is fine. I enjoy this here for what it is. It is very good, very well done. Fair play to the Legends team. Again, my slight grievances with a couple of other things. But compared to the old one, this is, in all honesty, just that much better. It is significantly better. There is some things I like about the old UI compared to this one. But, obviously, things are subjective. And I do like this here so much better. So yeah, those are my thoughts as a gobshite who knows a wee bit about user interface. So yeah, this is fine enough. And obviously, I did, before getting this here, before the update came about, I did get somebody else's opinion on the old UI, because unfortunately, and compared it to screenshots whenever they came out of the new UI. So obviously, that's going to be playing next year. So yeah, just have fun with me reading out those comments, because obviously, me using their voice, I don't think I never got consent for that, so there was that. I probably should have screen recorded the whole thing instead of voice recording. However, yeah, no, as for safety reasons, I guess safety reasons, but I mean, I guess privacy reasons, I'm reading out quotes from their audio and not using their voice, because I can't even get the goddamn audio until I screen record everything, which I'm not going to be bothered doing because that's stupid. So yeah, enjoy these quotes, me reading them out and obviously saying why I think I can agree with them and I disagree with them. And then obviously, I obviously couldn't have done it myself, and I obviously need some expertise on it here. I am somewhat of an expert. I'll put that in massive air quotes, and I mean massive ones. But I need a proper expert. And since I knew somebody who actually had some good experience, by that I mean at least good 20 years experience of UI expert, I decided to ask them. Obviously, am I going to put their voice or anything? I did record it, although not the screen. I've only recorded the voice because I'm an idiot and I completely forgot. I was like, I probably should have recorded the screen, but obviously I digress. I still did get a voice note, and I do have their quotes sitting here, so I'm going to read them out in 3 sections: the old look, the new look, and their overall contention of the game. Now, the only difference I will say here is whenever I got this here, it was well before the actual update. This is roughly around the time we only got the screenshots from the Legends information, so obviously we haven't got the full range, and I have got no way of getting in contact back with them again, because they're a very busy person. That's the only thing I will say. But we're going to read through the quotes right now. And obviously, quote number 1, I'm going to go through the overall quotes. The overall, again, as I said, I've sectioned it out in about 3 different sections: the old look, new look, and overall. So I'm going to go through the overall, and then I'm going to go for the new look, old look, then to the new look. So we're going to start off with the overall, and obviously, some of the things, this is through like half an hour worth of talking to them. So obviously, I just want to point out that they aren't familiar at all with the game. They have no expertise in game UI. They're only into like web and app developments and all that shit, like proper shit like H&M, Marks Spencer's, Target and all that, who has Scuba. That's the only thing I will say. The only contention I will say, and the fact that they can't work with small devices. They'd rather work on computers. That's the only thing. So yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna go over the general stuff. Obviously, there was a lot of representation with the game, so obviously we had to get a lot of representation of that. They did like the colors overall. The color usage, very well done. That is the thing they did say. The color usage was very well done through both of them, the new and old look. They did say that the fonts were absolute woeful. The different sizes does not help them in either of them. Both of them did have like very small fonts, and you know I can completely agree with that. That there was a bit of that, and obviously the home button on both of them fucking equally shit. Because again, the only thing, again, as I said, they have absolutely no experience with Dragon Ball in regards to the anime or the game, and the fact they have little to no expertise with game UI and more so web UI. That is the only thing. Again, I will say that I did make the point clear, but I just want to drill that into your heads. Experience for over 20 years, but only for web stuff. Nothing to do with games or Dragon Ball. They have little to next to no affiliation with me on that part. Only thing I will say. Yeah, not really much else to say overall, other than the fact that most of the stuff was just a contention between both of them. But we're going to get into the old look and see what they thought of it. Obviously, quote number one I've got here, that they thought that the HCI was fucking useless. It was shit. It was bad. It was just bad. That's literally it. The HCI was useless. The human-computer interaction, useless. And quote here, when you get sensitized to good and bad HCI, it frustrates you when you see it very bad. They really hate it. That is the only thing I will say. They really absolutely fucking hate the game with regards to the HCI. Because, and again, unfortunately, I wish I did screen record that, but I can't do much about that. Anyways, next quote. As I said, with the old look and the new look, they like the orange text. I did say this here in the overall. The orange text is quite good and it's quite well done. Obviously, Dragon Ball, orange. Can't really say much about that. Next quote. The overall and the new look and the old look is that it wanted to cry, like extremely. Like it was so bad. They wanted to cry because the yellow that was used was complete woeful. It was useless. It was shit. They just really hated it. They really hated it. That's the only thing I can say. It's inconsistent. The call to action buttons aren't separated from over things. In all honesty, I probably misspelled that. I'm supposed to be other things, but I put over. That's my fault because I grabbed it from a voice note and typed it up myself, so that was on me. But it doesn't matter because some of the things in the old update was in colored yellow, which I will assume is the the accept all and the tabs being selected. They were both color coded as yellow, so that's where the justification for that came into place. Then obviously for the last of the overall looks, there's no consistency with color, font, and I just want to cry when I look at it. They really want to drill home that they seriously hated the look of it. That is the only thing I will say. Anyways, we're going to move on to the energy, and as I said, the fonts, as I said about 3 times already, the font sizes are all different. It is just badly done. That's the again only thing that they really have to say. The font is just so all over the place. The arrows. Now, to be fair, I can agree on this here, because the fact that the arrows could mean other things. It could have been a ×1 or ×10, because that's what the icon's supposed to be doing. ×1, which is adding 1 or adding 10 on. That is the only thing. However, the only contention I will say to that is anything that costs 2 energy. That is the only contention I will say. Anything that costs 2 energy has to do it by 5, which does do 10. However, that's besides the point. The majority of the game does only take for like 1 energy, so yeah, fair enough. And obviously, the last one for the energy, a lot of cognitive load, and I couldn't tell you what that was again. By that I mean the energy itself. They had absolutely no idea what they even said for until I specifically told them. Until I specifically told them, they had absolutely no idea what the fuck that was. Anyways, next up is going to be the shop section, which was the free pack, which was the free things. the wee free daily chest we get. Yeah, it was that. Because once you clicked onto it, you claimed it, and it goes away. It gets you prompted to, it's supposed to be, into buying the actual CC, right? But it's where it is. My head's all over the place. Don't get what the fuck I'm doing. Yeah. But yeah, that's the way. That's what the overall thoughts was, the fact that as soon as you clicked the daily thing, it almost was prompting you to grab the CC, which was like 20 quid. I've honestly got no idea. I can't believe I got. That was all they had to say about the shop. Otherwise, the shop was fine enough. It was alright. The font sizes probably was a bit different sizes, and it was a bit all over the fucking show. But otherwise, that was like the main contention, which is somewhat shady business. Only thing I can't say about that. Next up is going to be the buttons. And as I said, with the overall thoughts on both looks, the home button was not supposed to be what it was. It was of Kame House, which everybody who plays the game should know of. But as I said, they have no affiliation with Dragon Ball, so they had absolutely no idea what the hell it was supposed to be for. I did try to explain that was a thing within the place, but that they had little to no fucks given. That was it. They just seriously fucking hated it. And quote, that is not a home icon that I have ever seen in any other app. That is appalling, in my opinion. It's design over function. And I'm struggling to press it. It's not big enough either. Which was the home button down the very far bottom left. Those last two quotes were from the button on the very bottom left. Actually, no, they were all over. What am I on about? There was no other home button. But yeah, that was literally it. It really hit the home button. Because, of course, it's not like the traditional home button that we all have everywhere else. And lastly, for the buttons, was the menu. Why would you put a menu in the bottom right? Well, anyways, according to the law of some HCI, of some user interface expert, anything that we have, if we have our phone in our right hand, anything on the right side is fair play. That is the only thing that will say. Anything on the right side is fair play. And anything on the left side, if you have it in your left hand, is fair play. If you have it in both hands, the entire screen more or less is fair play to you. That's the only reason why they were questioning what the fuck this was. That was it. That's literally it. Anyways, next on, moving on. The menu itself. The question if co-op was cooperation. They were questioning if co-op was cooperation. The answer to that question is yes. That is what that was supposed to be. They absolutely, again, and the menu, as a quote, does not seem to be functionally organized in any way, kind of all over the place. By that I mean, they thought that everything probably should have been at least alphabetized. In other words, it should have been like character list up at the first thing, exchange shop somewhere in the middle, and shop or tournament tournament of power at the very bottom right, because that's the last thing alphabetically, I think. Yeah, last thing alphabetically. No, it's adventure first, then tournament of power last, alphabetically. That is the only thing that they really said about that, because the fact that it was just stupidly laid out. Next up is going to be another quote. Being that the text is all over the place. You can read some, but not others. What's that in question? Obviously going to be Tournament of Power, because the fact that it's Tournament of Power, not like TOP. It was the entire 3 words, and yeah, they had to squish it in. Everything else was readable, they just had to squish in Tournament of Power. That was the only thing they layered in, because it was so out of place. Which was fair enough. I can say that, fair play. And then obviously, the last one, the last couple here, was the training mode. In all honesty, fair enough, but whenever they saw train, they immediately thought of a choo-choo train. And I quote, "Is train not a choo-choo train?" They figured it out afterwards. Whenever I said no, they realized what it was. But the fact that it was immediately a choo-choo train. I know, to be fair, it was funny. That's the only thing I will say. It was funny. But obviously, then the last quote. Thought event would have had a date or some form. The event, obviously, button. Thought they would have had some form of a date. To which, yes and no. That's event in the most broad of terms. And to be fair with you, I don't know why it's Trunks in both versions. In all honesty, why it's Trunks or the Time Machine for events, I've actually got no idea. I don't know what they could have done else for it. They probably just ran out of ideas, which in all honesty, fair enough to Legends for that. But there is that. Obviously, next up, and the final thing, thankfully for the old look, Mission. Why does Mission have one icon here, but a different one here? Which was the fact that Mission, I think, had just the usual like piece of paper with a bit of scribbles on it. But then when you went to the home screen, you probably noticed it, or you remember it from the old one, where it had like a rectangle with the Z of Dragon Ball Z logo with Mission underneath it. They were questioning why there were two different things, which in all honesty, fair enough. That is one thing I can say is fair enough. Why was there two different? But I gave the explanation that obviously size difference. You can't have that thing as a size difference on the home screen, and as well in the menu. One's bigger than the other. No one in all honesty pressed it. If you actually do press that thing on the home screen, what are you doing? I'm questioning your fucking life choices there. I'll seriously question. If you actually did do that, I'm questioning your life choices. But I digress. Now we are on to the new look. We've got off the old look finally. We're on to the new look, which was the which is only going to be 3 screenshots, despite the fact there's 5 of them that I got. To be fair, I want to also point. I probably should have said this earlier. Whenever I said they aren't used to phone, whenever they're using the phone, I prefer bigger screens. They do have some form of visual impairment. That's the only thing I will say. I was probably not allowed to say this here. In all honesty, I don't know the lengths, but I'm trying my best to keep it as low of a profile as possibly can. But they do have some form of visual impairment to not exactly help them. So that's the only thing I will say. Now, there's a lot of stuff here. A lot of things I have to get through. So I'm going to make the section as quick as I possibly can. With very little explanation, just reading quotes and what they thought. So anyways, first up, loading. It's not too bad. It looks better, but because it's clear. I don't like this thing. What's this stupid yellow thing in the text? Why is it... Okay, so then obviously... Why is it pointless too? I think it's silly in both places. That's... Well, firstly, the first one was obviously the loading screen. I still personally think the old one had a bit more character to it. I think I did say this here in the 15 minutes there, but I do think the old one had the slight bit more character compared to the new one, but I still don't mind the new one. I don't mind it. They were questioned because obviously why the fuck would there be somebody, why would Goku or whoever be flying in the loading screen? Fair enough. And then obviously, why is it pointless? I think it's silly in both places. That's the loading over the settings bar. That's the loading over the settings button. So yeah, that's it. Next up, the home screen. Ooh, that's quite nice. Which in all honesty, but they preferred the new one, which is fair enough. So do I. I actually do like the new one compared to the old one, despite the fact the old one had some form of character and its own identity to it. I think it also did say this in the thing, so I'll leave it. Why is the gems not beside it? In other words, the crystal counter up at the top right. Why were they were both not beside each other in both versions? It's just the fact that the new one is a bit more prominent compared to the other one, because at least the old one, the text was bigger. There wasn't too much shits given. Whereas the new one is a bit more spaced away. It doesn't like size with the number. It's size set. That was it. I prefer the new one. It's not all much in your face. Events, sorry. So in other words, the buttons in the old one was a bit bigger compared to the new one, which there is none. It is just a flat line. I also did mention it to them that this I personally felt like it was extremely like Dokkan. I did say this here, and that they were like, yeah, they were questioning if it's the same as any other game, which I don't think there is. I think that's mostly just from Dokkan, and they were like, yep, okay, no, that's bad. That's all I want to say. That's all I want to say. Their quotes, not mine. I just want to point that out. I did not put that into their mouth. It was them. I was just giving my own personal thing. Shut up, you dickhead, you. Moving on. Home is equally stupid icon, but it's got text I can read this time, and it's in the middle. Again, as I said, call my house for both of them. Didn't understand it, which, again, fair enough. If you don't understand Dragon Ball, you'll never understand what the fuck that building is. Oh, that was the home screen. I don't remember if I mentioned that. But anyways, the next one is the menu. Wee bit more space around the edge. I like the space. I find it strange how there's a big empty box there. No, it's not good at a way. It's not a good way to do it. They've changed the information architecture. They've changed things around on the basis of what people are searching for, and for the most, and put them as priorities. In other words, everything was set to how we should be expecting it for the menu. In other words, the character list is the very top left. Then it's the training. Then it's I've already forgotten. Then I think TOP is beside the exchange shop. PvP is underneath the exchange shop. Exchange shop is set in the middle, to which I kind of argued was stupid. Again, 6 years prior, so nearly 7 years worth of playing the old one. That's it. That's all I want to say. But you know, they do like the new architecture of the menu. They do like it because, as I said, they've set it around the basis of what people are searching for the most and put them as priorities. But they don't like the fact there's empty boxes, which was at the very top, the center and right. They didn't like that because what the fuck's supposed to be there? I did also mention to them it was the same with the old one, because there's usually something there as a timely thing, but it's never always there, so it's just an empty space. And as the buttons, I love the back button. Undo, always very important. I hope it's on every page and takes you back every time. And it is. It's on every single page, which is just the arrow. They like it, the fact that it's an arrow that's telling you to go back to the previous page that you were on. That was it. Yeah, overall, they do like the new one, because initial thoughts is that it looks a bit better and they're using space more. That's it. That was their thoughts all summed up. It's the fact that it looks better and they're using space a bit more, which fair enough. Obviously I do have my minor grievances with it, which is probably why some people in my poll have it so that their opinions have changed, but it also hasn't, because they probably did like it, but there's some things that they didn't like about it, which I'm in that category, but I'm mostly in the I do like it, despite the fact it looks like half the time fucking Dokkan, but that's besides the point. I can need to shut up about that. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. I shall see you all in my next one. Despite the fact this thing came out like 3 weeks later, but I don't care.